Good evening. Welcome, everybody. It is the E3 2015 sports game wrap-up here at Hit the Pass. Hit the Pass, we are very excited. We have got everybody that you could possibly want, every site represented, every personality represented. Well, not every personality. I guess there are more than a few personalities. But, hey, we've got Pasta Padre. We've got Operation Sports. We've got That Sports Gamer. And it's Hit the Pass. Welcome, everybody. E3 2015. You know, it's kind of, for sports games this year, it's kind of like, the analogy I can draw is that it's kind of like the NCAA tournament going chalk. You got everything that you would expect and nothing that you didn't expect. Not saying that's good, not saying that's bad, but it was a very by the numbers E3 press conference event as far as sports games go. So let's just go right around the horn. Start with you, Brian Weedeye. Your high-level thoughts, impressions on how sports games fared at all the press conferences at the kickoff of E3 2015.
Yeah, there was nothing really terribly compelling today, and we were all looking for an interesting announcement, and we got some that were interesting but not really exciting. The Madden announcement of a new mode, NBA Live was on the stage for a little while. And then there was, no new games announced. So it was, and FIFA is another one, had a new trailer. So it was mostly about, just moving on and showing more video, more trailers for these games, starting that promotional cycle really at this point, and then adding on to that with supplementing it with gameplay news and features that were released off-site, on their websites and sent out via press releases and stuff. So it wasn't anything. Actually, as a sports guy, as we all are, this was the first year where I really felt watching EA's conference. Once it got to the sports games, it just crashed. It was the presentations were done really poorly. It was not well thought out for an audience that probably wasn't going to be interested in these games anyway. And then Microsoft had some stuff that was fairly relevant to sports gamers, whether it was the new controller that they're going to be selling apparently for $150, or Forza 5 trailer, and backwards compatibility, which if that actually, if it involved sports games, which there's a good chance it won't, but if it did, that would be a big deal, considering some of the ones that have died off over the years. So yeah, I mean, nothing really jumped out at me today. It was all just kind of by the books for the last couple of years and how they want to roll these games out and present them to the wider audience.
And to that, Brian Weeda, I say hallelujah. That's exactly what I've been hoping for. Let's have an E3 when it comes to our favorite games that's not full of hyperbole, not always trying to change the game's world forever, not trying to revolutionize, not trying to dramatically alter. Let's take all these games that you like, and in the course of a year, let's make them better. So I actually was very happy with the very matter-of-fact, understated as you can be at an event like E3, almost deliberate approach to how the information was revealed and how the games were presented, right? Presentations are hard, and we'll go over some of the specifics on each of them a little bit. But overall, I was actually very happy with the way that it was executed. Chris Sanner, your overall impressions of how sports games fared this E3?
Well, it was a pretty quiet day, honestly. I mean, I agree with you guys. I mean, it's very run-of-the-mill, kind of what you expected. I will say I was busy once the news releases hit. It seemed like there was a non-stop stream of me feverishly posting and Steve Noah cracking his whip over my head, telling me to work harder. I know, it was pretty rough. But no, it was a pretty good day. We found out a lot more about each of these games. I mean, Madden had a lot of details, and then you just got some nuggets about other games. A little disappointed we didn't hear more about PGA Tour and NHL, at least in the conferences. They were treated as afterthoughts, but that's okay. And I guess my big thing, that I really liked about today was just the simple fact that it just seemed like these games are kind of in a mature state, if that makes sense, where they're, I guess the best way to put it, we're just getting better versions of what we already had, and that's good. We're not trying to see developers reinvent the wheel. They're trying to just basically improve what's there, and that's good. I like that.
Yeah, it is an interesting approach, right? I mean, with a lot of the reveals of games or descriptions of games, these presentations go very heavy, as I mentioned earlier, on revolutionizing and changing the blah 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 forever, and completely opening up a new world of gameplay. And that's not really the way that sports games are going to be able to operate, at least most of the time. TJ Lyman, you watched it all today. Your first impressions on sports games and how they fared at E3 2015, the press conferences.
Well, the thing you're forgetting, Rich, is that the big thing, changing the game thing, is what gets people excited. I watched this, and I pretty much came out of today thinking my passes in FIFA are going to be a little bit more accurate. Madden, my receivers might actually catch the ball this year. Supposedly I can throw to windows, which I could have swore I was supposed to do last year, but I guess that was a lie. And I was just really not super excited about anything that they showed. I got really excited in the Sony press conference when they showed MLB The Show in like 2 video trailers for about 3 seconds compared to other games that had like a 4 second.
I did too, because it looks so good. The show looks so beautiful. The bigger the screen, the better the show looks.
Yeah, but I was just really not excited with anything I heard, and I was kind of let down by the whole thing.
Well, let me ask you this, and I'm not being snarky. What would you expect? What would you hope? Like, what would a big, exciting to TJ Lauerman, that sports gamer E3 in 2015 have been? Not, going crazy, but, something plausible, something realistic.
I think, we're not going to get a new game, but a new mode or something. The draft thing in Madden was kind of the coolest thing I thought we saw from everything, but just telling me that my passes in FIFA are going to be more crisp, I can put my face into NBA Live now, that just doesn't do it for me.
Wow, TJ, Brian, going hard, negative, not very happy with everything. All right, so you mentioned, TJ, Madden Draft Champions. This is a new mode that was unveiled today, where it's sort of a bridge between a franchise mode and an Ultimate Team mode, in which it's online heavy. You create a team, but it's a fantasy team. You redraft the team quickly, right? You go through these short sort of seasons, but they're like 3 or 4 games, whether you're playing offline or online. It's meant to be fast, easy to get into, constantly changing. Very interesting. Whether it turned out to be great or not, well, obviously, but a very interesting approach. TJ says there was nothing new. Brian Weedeye, this seems pretty new and pretty interesting to me. Again, not saying it's good or bad, just new and interesting.
Well, different. It is something they didn't have before.
Well, they did have it before.
Oh, okay.
They had the Ultimate Team draft duels, which was kind of similar.
Okay. Yeah, so I think this is meant to be something that's a little more casual than Ultimate Team. It's not going to, trap you like Ultimate Team does, especially since you get to redraft after every couple games or whatever. But, what? Conceptually, I think it makes sense because it gives you a chance kind of to craft your team and build it to certain strengths and weaknesses that maybe suit you. And what that reminds me of is All Pro Football 2K8, where you got to pick certain legends, and you had to pick and choose because you were going to leave gaps on your team where you neglected, and you were going to be strong at the areas where you took the best guys. So it created a challenge, and people had different types of teams, and that just that offered a lot of variety in the gameplay too. So there's potential there for that. I'm not sure this really, the whole idea of it being some combination of fantasy football and Madden, I don't really buy that. I guess in a fantasy football draft, a lot of the time when it does come up to your pick, you've got a few guys in mind and you have to pick quickly and all that. But if you were going to talk about combining fantasy football with Madden, I think you'd go to a greater extent than this. So I'm not sure, who this is going to appeal to necessarily. I could see it end up being kind of fun, but it's not something I would get thrilled about, like anticipating coming up, and I don't get the sense many people are.
Okay. Ultimate Team is something that really had no correlate. Ultimate Team, I don't know how long it's been out, 5 years, 6 years. I think it's extremely difficult to come up with interesting new ways to play these games that we have been playing for 20, 25 years in the case of, simulation or attempt at realistic football, baseball, basketball, and hockey. I don't know that this will be anything significant, but I can absolutely see the value in trying something new with a different team and exploring the way to play it, being able to do it either offline or online. With Ultimate Team, it took them a few years to find the right mix and to make it compelling and understandable to a large group of people. To me, this also seems like no matter how you introduce a new way to play the game, you're going to have to roll with it at a certain point in time, sort of take your lumps, figure it out, and then that will improve. Without sounding too much like some sort of, Madden apologist or whatever, I'm not like saying I'm excited, I'm ready to jump in and play this, but I'm impressed that they're doing something like this, and I'm definitely going to check it out, and I could see it potentially being an interesting way to experience Madden. Chris Sander, which way are you leaning, and which way in the early comments, if you've been able to see, is the Operation Sports community leaning?
Oh, no, I don't like this mode at all. I don't. First off, I don't get it. I mean, I really don't. I promise you, I'm positive about like much of today, just because I'm excited about it. But I see nothing about this mode that makes me go, man, I'm dropping everything I want to do in Madden, and I am playing that. And I don't.
Wait, who says you have to drop everything and play this mode? No one is saying that. It's not like anything's getting replaced.
There's only 24 hours in a day, Rich. I got to drop something if I'm going to play Madden for 24 hours a day. So, something's got to get dropped. And there's nothing. I mean, no, but seriously, I guess it'll be good because I will play it and experience it like in its fullest, in the sense that it's not as big of a demand on your time as Ultimate Team or connected franchise. So you can do that, and I will probably end up doing it, and I'll probably end up liking it just because I'm being negative about it now. But I don't know. I read about it, and nothing really moves the needle for me. And you kind of saw that with the community. There was a little bit of a yawn with it. I mean, there really was. This is the one thing that really fell flat to me today.
Okay. Well, and again, and this is the last sort of, this is the last question about the topic, and this is going to go to you, TG. I think of a mode like this. Like, obviously, we, except for Chris Sander, who's afraid to play us, but you, me, and Brian Weedeye are in a online franchise in Madden, online connected, and we have fun, and we play multiple years, and we have our teams that we start with, and then we draft over the course of 2 or 3 seasons, and they change and they evolve. How interesting would it be to sort of change the recipe of that, as we're all still in this online league, but every 3 or 4 or 6 games, we completely get a new set of players and teams, and it might not be a 16-game season, but it'll be a series of events, and over the course of time, it's a very different way to experience the game in a community way. I mean, to me, when I see this, that's exactly where I go. And doesn't that sound like that could be an interesting way to play Madden with your friends in a way that's not just a franchise or just Ultimate Team?
Yeah, that would be really cool and a great way to get around the progression stuff breaking every year and Reggie Wayne having 54 speed after the first season. Yeah, that would be really cool if we could get, 10 people into this draft thing, and we're going to play 4 humans, and that's the season. And we get to the playoffs, bang it out. I think that would be a really cool way to do it.
Okay, just throwing it out there. Brian, I'd close us out on this item.
Yeah, when I first saw this news, my first thought was this is them dipping their toes in to try this concept out and see if it catches on as a potential Ultimate Team replacement.
Okay.
In terms of generating revenue, I don't know if they're going to charge for stuff this year, if it involve coins to do something extra in the mode. But potentially I could see that if this was a popular mode, them saying, okay, and they start to grow it and start to monetize it, and then that's when they spin Ultimate Team off into its own free-to-play game, which they've already done on mobile and PC, as we've talked about several times. So I see them experimenting with different ideas that could potentially turn into revenue generators and allow them to shift Ultimate Team out.
Yep, and what's wrong with that, right? I mean, again, it's an experiment. If it works, great. If it doesn't, it's better to try something every once in a while than not. All right, let's move on to penalties. This is another item that came up in their blog, not necessarily much on the on the floor. Ronwita, you are delighted with this. I think it's a disaster waiting to happen. Tell me again, remind me again why a completely unrelated blocking in the back penalty on a kickoff return for a touchdown is somehow a good idea? Remind me.
It's not unrelated if you're playing with a crappy offensive lineman, Rich. There has to be considerations that go into player ratings. Just like you look at an offensive lineman's run block and pass block, which right now is pretty much all you look at, and impact blocking. Now you have to consider, is this guy an issue as far as penalties go, instead of just jacking up his run block and pass block ratings or drafting him because he has run block and pass block. You have to consider everything about a player, and I think when you move towards that for every position, that's a very good thing as far as the game goes, especially when it comes to things like that. Every player in the league is flawed at times, right? But you don't really see that in Madden very often. So I think it's important, and we've debated this topic several times now, Rich, and how I said it had to work is exactly what EA is doing. So I'm encouraged by that. They're giving them player ratings that relate to how they might be an issue as far as penalties go, and then they're saying the way you play the game is going to affect how penalties are called. So if you press every down, you're going to be more likely to get called for defensive holding or pass interference, it makes complete sense, and it's a great way to check all those people who overdo stuff online. And you're laughing, Rich. Maybe it's you. Maybe you're just upset because you press on every down.
No, I don't. Not anymore.
You run too
Not
many,
anymore.
You run too many
Rich.
sweeps. You don't have Evan Mathis now, so you run too many sweeps to the outside where your crappy offensive lineman's going to get called, and you're going to be upset about it. I'm sorry, Rich. Welcome to the NFL. You're going to be going for it for two like Chip Kelly all the time, too, so get used to it.
Now it's getting personal. I love it. It's getting personal. That's fantastic. You're saying that Brian is obviously demented. Tell me why penalties are, random penalties are good in Madden, because they've heard Brian and I debate this more than once.
Well, I'll tell you this, Rich. What you're seeing right now, EA do with Madden, and I love it. You're seeing new layers being added on top of the strategy you have to consider. Before too long, people are actually going to have to start using real football to figure this game out. I mean, between the penalties and not being able to press all the time, you're going to have to consider the fact that you're going to get holding penalties, all that fun stuff. When the ball's thrown, you're going to have to figure out if you want to be aggressive with the receiver or not as a defender. You're going to get the crap called out of you with interference. And honestly, I love the fact that the defensive adjustments, I mean, I'm getting way ahead of myself probably, but just like the strategies that are being introduced right now and what you got to consider, especially on the defensive end, I am 100% for this direction with this franchise, because finally you have to use your head a little bit to succeed on the field, and that's a good place for a franchise to be getting to, I think. And personally, I like it.
Okay. Fair enough. TJ Larriman, you mentioned, I saw you tweet earlier about, I believe the wide receiver defensive back interaction was the thing that, the gameplay and all the information that's come out has you the most either interested or most impressed with. Do I have that right? And if not, what have you seen other than the, the new mode that has you interested or impressed you or perhaps even concerns you?
Yeah, I like the ability to now you can decide how you want to catch the ball, if you're going to try to run for yards after the catch or if you want to just do a conservative catch and stuff. That seems really cool. I hope swatting actually works this year, because I'm pretty sure every time I went for a swat last year, it ended up in Brian getting a touchdown on me and me getting super pissed. And my big problem with the penalties is that, much like QB inaccuracy this year, you only really saw it when it actually mattered. So my quarterback would throw 30 passes right on the money, but then on a 4th and 3 where my wide receiver's wide open, my quarterback will just throw it into the dirt for no apparent reason. So I'm really hoping that the penalties don't happen then, which I'm pretty sure is the only time the penalties are actually going to happen, and it's going to get real frustrating real quick.
All I know is it's going to be a lot of fun this fall with all of the GIFs and Vines and tweets coming at me from various directions with people either, I'm with you, Rich Grisham, no more penalties, and this is why penalties are great. I'm looking forward to that. All right, let's move on. NBA Live also had a very significant moment in the sun, so to speak, during the EA press conference. A very confident and buoyant Sean O'Brien came on stage, talked about the game. It was very interesting, I thought, how NBA Live really went after their competition, NBA 2K16, very pointedly bringing, the game face. I mean, directly going right at, the NBA 2K15, facial scans from last year, and then sort of closing hard with, we are going to be super stable online all the time. We got this. Very confident, very going after the competition. We'll go to you, Chris Sanner. What was your impression of the NBA Live presence on the stage at EA's conference?
In the words of everyone's favorite kooky old man video games journalist, shots flared. Shots flared. Right, Rich?
That's exactly right. You got it, my friend.
But no, seriously. The NBA Live, actually, I mean, I like their bold direction. They're obviously confident in what they're trying to do this year. And actually, the game, to me, looked better. They're emphasizing player movement in their specific gameplay direction. It's different enough from 2K and what they're wanting to do that it can, if it's good, it'll have a space in the market, especially if the online works. I really liked what I saw at NBA Live. I don't know how good the game's going to be, but I'm actually happy to see them bold and confident, and the game actually looking pretty good. I mean, what I saw in motion today did not look terrible, and that's, I guess that's a horribly low bar, since, a standard to have, but it looked good. I mean, it really did. It looked good, and that's probably the best compliment I can give it right now, for sure.
TJ Lauerman, did NBA Live look good?
Rich, I don't know. Are we in that like uncanny valley where it looks so good that it obviously looks like something looks wrong, and I have no idea what it is?
Yeah, maybe it's just that I'm, NBA 2K15 looks so good, right? But I was thinking it, and I definitely saw, I believe you and a couple other people tweet that it looks good, but just
there's something
a little bit not quite right with the NBA Live footage so far.
And that could be we've gotten to the point where it looks too good, and then your brain's like, no, this is fake, something is wrong. And maybe that's what my brain is just doing to try to like remind me that this is a game, but I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's something the way the ball's releasing from the hand or something. Just something's off for me.
I will say this: the colors are really weird. I mean, as a guy who does like visual stuff, like they're really weird looking. Like it's like there's too much gray or something. It's like desaturated almost to me. I don't know. They looked really weird. The colors looked weird. So I mean, that's just from a just off the cuff thing.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, the animations look good. It's just something with the way the people are. I don't know.
Yep. A very physical game too. Like when they were showing a lot of people banging, a lot of bodies smashing into each other in the post and in screens and stuff like that. So they're definitely emphasizing that aspect of the game. Brian Wiedau, your impressions of the confident and very very vocal, very bold NBA Live appearance during EA's conference.
I wasn't sure it was the right forum for NBA Live really to roll out that kind of stuff and talk that way. But that being said, I thought they did some good things today, and I spoke with a friend of mine who's more of a casual basketball guy. He hasn't played in a few years, and he thought Live looked interesting, looked fairly good. So, and I warned him about the past. But it's that's part of the thing now is what can they do now to bring in new people? And if that worked on someone, then it's probably working on others. So the things like the face scan, that's important as far as connecting you to a player within the game. Like in the career mode in Live 15, just completely generic face. You really had no choice about it, and it just until you've gone and created guys who look just like you, and then you go back and use somebody who looks completely generic, you don't realize how much that actually means. So that's we have to assume it's going to work. They probably got that all set up to be right on stage. If it works as easy as it looks, then that would be great using your phone app, because 2K's face scan was horrendous and complicated and frustrating, and I never even got it to work once. So. And then they made claims about online. Now the dangerous thing about online, if you attack online, that's great because that's one of 2K's weaknesses. The dangerous thing about online is you can say it's going to be amazing. You don't know until the game is out how your servers are going to handle it, how well you've optimized it. Those claims scare me, to be honest. Like, you cannot, because if they make those claims and then they fail at it, that's it. You know, they'll never recover from that. If they get people to buy 4 online modes, like a return of Adidas Live Run or a crew type EA Sports Basketball Association type league, where you can play with all your friends online, if they get people to buy the game for that and then it doesn't work, they're in bigger trouble than they've ever been in, I think. So you have to be careful with that stuff, and maybe they're just swinging for the fences now because they know this is their last shot. That could be it. But I think they did some good things today, and I'm interested to see where they go with it, because they realize, as much as they said things today and didn't really show them, they realize they have to prove it. And if they don't prove it, nobody's going to buy into it.
They also announced a release date. I believe it was September 29th, and I believe that's the same time that NBA 2K16 comes out. Do I have that right? Okay.
Yeah, except for the 4-day early pre-order thing that 2K is doing. So 2K's real release date is September 25th.
Right, but with EA Access, doesn't NBA Live probably come out the same day as well?
You only get 6 hours with it. As opposed to the full game you get with 2K. And if you're a PS4 person, you got nothing, Rich. You're waiting for the 29th. So there is a bit of a competition there on Xbox One, where Live actually will hit the day before 2K for, where you get 6 hours through EA Access. But that's only a sliver of Live's consumer base, or it's predominantly PS4s, at least for the last 2 releases. So we'll see how that goes, but it's interesting how there's a little battle over a release date, because in the past that wouldn't have been possible.
Other than a few very impressive visuals, really nothing about PGA Tour golf. Are you surprised about that, TJ Larriman?
Unless they're going to come out with some big crazy story mode or something, I think visuals is what that game's always kind of relied on. Though being able to see the other 4 people that you're playing with actually on the greens and stuff is actually way cooler than just seeing like their ball or a marker on the green. So I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Chris Tanner, I was very surprised, frankly, that Rory McIlroy PGA Tour Golf did not get more stage time. It comes out next month. It'll be here very soon. Probably, one of the, if not the next game to be released out of any of the games that were talked about in the entire conference. Were you expecting more? Are you surprised there wasn't, even if it's just reminding everybody, right, that it's coming out? I definitely was surprised by that. Does that mean anything?
Well, there was a game last year that EA almost certainly buried until the very last moment. Then they started releasing information, and that game was NHL. And I'm just saying, I think I think PGA is going to have the same type of fate. I mean, just from stuff we know, I honestly do not know when the embargo is up. So I'm not going to reveal specifics, but I will say some of the things you're going to hear are going to be very underwhelming about it, as far as the amount of things that you can play as or play with. I'm just throwing some things out there, but. Just know that I think this game's going through the same type of thing. They're trying to give it as much time as possible for whatever reason, and I think we're going to have the same situation. The game certainly looks pretty. The modes look okay, but I do think that this release may end up a little underwhelming because of all that, even though I do think it's going to be a very beautiful game, because, man, that Frostbite engine looks good.
Very interesting. Brian Weedow, do you have the same concerns, same thoughts, or any other reasons why PGA Tour might not have been at least more mentioned, considering it's coming out so soon?
Okay, first of all, they crashed and burned it last E3 by doing the whole Battlefield course thing.
You did see the hulking, smoking battleship in the corner, though, for at least one moment. I saw that.
Yeah. So they weren't going to go press into that again. But like I mentioned earlier, that whole conference, it was already heavy on sports games. They rolled through like 5 sports games. They didn't even do them in order like they usually do. They had to space them out. So I don't think they were going to throw PGA Tour in there again, because that's even more niche than the other sports games. So they got a mention in, and then they're apparently releasing some news on nighttime golfing, some sort of thing tomorrow. So that's something to watch for. I don't think they were really going to pull more sales by promoting it through an E3 conference. So, it didn't really surprise me. I didn't think it would have a big place at the conference there.
Okay, well,
real soon, right?
what's that?
Like next month, something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Probably
FIFA also, I'm pretty sure, TJ Larman, that the FIFA section of the conference was met with the most concern about sort of the lack of pizzazz and pace to the to the conference itself. What were you thinking as the interview with Pele went on and on and on during the FIFA section of the show?
Rich, I got extremely lucky when the FIFA section, when the Pele section came on. Literally, as he walked on the stage, my wife called me to pick her up from the bus stop. I drove over there. I was like, "Oh man, I'm gonna miss all this FIFA stuff." I pull back in. I sit down. Pele's walking off the stage. Was the greatest part of the conference for me. I just lucked out. Just one of those things.
Brian,
What do you even talk about?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Were you surprised at how they approached the FIFA section, considering its popularity and I'm sure the amount of information that they could have gone over during this show?
Yeah, I mean, Pele's obviously the biggest person in soccer, so obviously that's who you're going to go with. And then even at the end, when you got Ultimate Team cards of Pele, you have to remember that that's only Xbox One, and they didn't really make that clear when they were talking on the stage. Yeah, FIFA looks like FIFA and Trainee a lot.
Now I'll answer the question that was asked to me, TJ.
Hey, this whole setup is not really working well right now, so it's kind of all on fire. I'm just getting lucky here.
Okay, so what was the question, Rich? I forgot.
Do you like Pele?
Oh, okay. So just in general, again, just like NBA Live, I thought some of it was really, the wrong forum for it. Sitting Pele out there to talk for 20 minutes was probably not the best decision because those people in the crowd and the majority of people watching don't care. The weird thing about it though is, and I was thinking about this earlier, was FIFA is it's the biggest selling sports game in the world every year. And yet people groan when it comes on. People groan when Call of Duty comes on, but there's a ton of people who are super excited for that too. But you don't get that sense with FIFA. So I'm not, obviously they're going to use the platform, the opportunity to promote it.
Absolutely.
But going to the extent they did, and not even about the game, just talking with Pele, it was an odd choice. But maybe they just want to cut that into a YouTube video and put that out and use it as promotion also. But yeah, I mean, they definitely wanted to get out some of the gameplay, the trailer. But yeah, again, it kind of fell flat a little bit.
Yeah, no, with FIFA, and Chris Sander, you mentioned this earlier. I mean, we're at a very different place with where sports games are at this stage of this generation than where we were before. It almost seems like it took a few years for sports games to really find their feet certainly at the start of the PS2 era, and then again at the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 era. That didn't happen with the exception really of NHL. And so it's very... I'm glad I'm not in charge, frankly, of trying to figure out how to prioritize and execute and develop the next version of these games every year. But it's just, Chris, there's probably so many little things that they know to do, but to then translate that into a way that can be made into a compelling demonstration, it's you just look at the features that have been listed so far. It's like, well, it's better passing, and it's better defense, and it's a little more tackling animations. It's like it's extremely granular, and it's underwhelming to look at. But yet, if you take the game that comes out and it's significantly better than it was the year before, there's there's a lot to be said for that. I don't know, Chris. It's just I find it very difficult to figure out if I were doing this how to present it, on a year-to-year basis. I mean, do you get that same sense?
I would bring Pele out for 50 minutes. That's what I would do, Rich. That's how I would solve this problem. Just have him talk for 50 minutes, and no. But seriously, I really like the, I guess the fact what you just said. Sports games seem like they're comfortable in their own skin now. They don't have to do crazy things. They're just like, we'll just make these games play really well and make these experiences very compelling. The sports themselves, what people want anyway, so we're just going to make that better. And I just at this, it just feels like one of those things where sports games could easily just come out and say this game's going to be better this year. Walk off the stage, give you a trailer, and that's all you need to say. I mean, that's all they really need to say. I mean, it's just going to be better. And I mean, seriously, the brevity mind of me. That's how you do it. You just say the game you played last year was good. This one's better. We'll see y'all later. Here's a trailer, and you just walk off stage.
I'm telling you, Chris Sander, I like that a lot more, as I said at the start, than these bombastic announcements about how you're changing the world, and then inevitably a lot of those things don't wind up coming to fruition. How many? I mean, look at the PlayStation, the Sony conference, and The Last Guardian, right? That game was announced how many years ago? And now that it's back and supposedly coming out in 2016, and everybody knows it's going to be 2017 or 18, that's a big deal, right? I mean, it's just...
I was in diapers when they first announced that, I'm pretty sure.
I am so on board with the, hey, guys, in 9 months, we did a whole bunch of stuff to make the game better. Call me crazy. On the flip side, TJ Lyerman, no new games announced. Nothing. Zip. Zilch. Nada on the sports game side. Now, obviously what a lot of people were hoping was for Joe Montana Football to make its appearance. Damon Groh is tweeting. I'm following it. He's tweeting that information will be coming out tomorrow. Nothing happening.
That tweet's gone.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's been deleted.
So what do you have to say, TJ, about Joe Montana Football? We all want it. Everybody wants it. It does not appear like it's going to appear, or at least if it does, not in any sort of console AAA type.
Yeah, and obviously since I am actually behind all of this, I guess I would be the one to answer this. Yeah, I have no idea what is going on. The majority of the twitch.tv/hitthepass chat while the Microsoft conference was going on, anytime anybody said anything that sounded like Daisy, they were like, is that Damon Groh? And then a large, a zombie comes onto the stage. We were pretty sure it was Joe Montana's zombied version. But, yeah, it looks like we haven't heard anything. Tweets are now getting deleted saying that there will be information yesterday's tomorrow, which would be today. But then it's funny because on Twitter, the fanboys have kind of done the same thing they've been doing for months now. Every time it's like, oh, there's going to be information on this day, and then that day passes. The next tweet you get is, oh, well, it was never actually going to be this day. It's going to be on this other day. And that's literally been every conversation I've had about Montana 16 in the last 2 months. And even today, I'm like, well, there was nothing on the stage. They're like, oh, well, actually, they're doing it all tomorrow at some PC thing that I don't even know about. And I think this game is dead in the water. But my good friend Jeff Sherman did have a funny comment. He said maybe it's Montana 19 with a picture of Joe in his Chiefs uniform. So we have that to look forward to. That was the thing the whole time. It was a 6. It was actually upside down. Montana 19. Get ready.
Brian Widow, you're hurling insults at me from multiple directions. You want me to send it over to you. I'm sorry. You have a question. Please take the question from the community about Joe Montana Football or whatever it's about.
The moment has passed, Rich.
I'm so sorry.
We can never get it back. No. First of all, thanks. We've gotten several questions and comments in the Q&A. So I appreciate that. I've been following them, even though we haven't responded directly to them. If we don't tonight, we will when we do. We're going to focus in on individual games more later in the week.
Yes.
But, yeah, we have one here from Ryan Lewis, one of the brains behind Hit the Pass. He wants to know what's more disappointing, all the Joe Montana news of the day or the Game of Thrones finale.
Oh, boy.
And, I have my personal opinion is the Game of Thrones finale. That is just torture porn at this point. Although I think you could argue the teasing that has been done for Joe Montana to be torture porn at this point, too, for the people who have followed and tried to interpret everything when we don't have anything yet, right? You can be hopeful of the idea of a new game and support that idea, but don't get invested in something that doesn't exist yet, right? So that's where my issue comes in. And yeah, and I've invested years and years in Game of Thrones. So that's where my disappointment lies more. I'm sorry.
Got it. Chris Sanner, your thoughts on the lack of an appearance by Joe Montana Football and where that whole situation is right now?
Well, maybe I posted something on OS under a pseudonym. Maybe I came up with an account called Damon Grow. And maybe I know Joe Montana, and maybe we just hatched this. But no, I'm kidding. But seriously, but in all reality, we were supposed to see this game tomorrow. One of our guys out there. We were given a time. We were not given a place or a company, and ever since that time was given, we have not heard anything else. We haven't heard a single thing about this game in 24 hours, and they're supposedly meeting like first thing tomorrow morning. So take that for what you will. I've got a little bit of a feeling that I've been saying it for a while. This game either doesn't exist, or it is a mobile or free-to-play PC game. It's not what people have been expecting. Everybody here, believes that for sure. I don't know. First off, I think this is like the whole thing has been absurd to me. First off, you've got a really, really good football game in Madden right now. Like, it's the best football game we've had ever. That's not even close. Go back and play NFL 2K5. You're going to find a lot of problems that do not exist in Madden today.
Boy, you're kicking a hornet's nest.
Oh, boy.
I don't care right now because this is the truth. This is the truth. The only thing Madden doesn't do great right now is presentation. Everything else on the field, gameplay-wise, is better than what 2K did. So I don't even know where this craziness comes from. And then on top of all that, you have this where a guy literally no post on OS comes on. Honestly, I thought we should have banned and deleted the thread. That was a mistake, but that was a big mistake. But anyways, that went on, and that basically it was like the legend of Joe Montana began to grow. Now, if this game could end up being something okay. It could be a fun little free-to-play PC game or a tablet mobile game, and it could be really good. I'm a big fan of that direction if it's done right. But the thoughts on this thing being like an Xbox exclusive, Microsoft, big box 2K produced title or something. It's just craziness. It was craziness from the get-go, and I don't know where that came from. I don't know. It was really honestly one of those things where anybody could have started that thread. It could have been Brian. Brian could have did. I don't know why he would have posted on OS, but it could have been Rich. It could have been TJ. It could have been some just guy who's bored out of his mind who thought he'd start a firestorm, and he's probably laughing right now. So, it's just who probably saw Damon Grow post something or, just knows Damon or something and just figured he'd start something who's a football gaming fan. So I just think that this thing has been absurd from the get-go, and I'm happy that we're going to be moving beyond it on some level soon.
Well, it almost feels like it wouldn't be an E3 without, a rumor of a Madden competitor. It seems like it happens almost every year, but those rumors have not yet turned into reality. And another reason that they may never turn into reality, Brian Weedeye, is that it became official today, as you reported over at Pasta Padre, that the NFL license remains exclusive with Electronic Arts. Pretty interesting development, at least to those of us in this community.
Yeah, it was. There was some question about that because EA extended the license or the exclusive license with the NFL, and they didn't even announce it really. Just it came offhand comment, and then at an investor call when they were asked about it, when Peter Moore was asked about it, and then everybody tried to get clarification. Okay, does that mean you still have exclusive? Because they didn't say it was exclusive, and they refused to answer, which everybody started thinking, okay, something's up here. Because every other time they've made an exclusive deal, they come out with a press release. Madden 06 had exclusive license on the cover of the game, so they like to flaunt that because it's investor-wise, it makes sense and it capitalizes on the license more. So we had rumor mongers out there, and this is every year. 2K is making an NFL game this year. Just wait for the E3 announcement. Of course, it doesn't happen. And we have the Montana thing, which again, there's something to it. But when that post at Operation Sports came out, it was important that the only response the Montana people made was to put out a screenshot of the game, which was clearly unlicensed, And my belief at the time was, okay, they're trying to put out that fire and stop people from talking about it, but they never really followed up on it and stopped the whole idea that it was going to show up at the Microsoft conference and stuff, like everything like that. And so they kind of let the hole be dug for them, and I don't know why, but an unlicensed football game was never going to make the stage on a Microsoft conference or wherever it might have been. Could it be at E3 in some other capacity, like Chris said? Absolutely. I mean, do they have a publisher? We don't even know that. They could be meeting with publishers at E3 and it not be really a public reveal. There's so many things that go on at E3 that aren't just public reveals. And so people ran with this with a fantasy. And, hopefully some of it turns out to be the case. Hopefully it turns out to be a game that releases on, that isn't just mobile, and then we actually get a fun game, because we always support that. And there many times I talk about, I wish we had arcade games. I wish we had alternatives that offered something different. It doesn't have to be licensed to be fun. So there's still hope for that. But again, until you have something tangible to grasp onto and get excited about, don't do this to yourself.
I agree, sir. I agree. Everybody wants more options. Everybody wants more competition, right? We would love to have the halcyon days of the PlayStation 2 when you had 2 or 3 NBA games, 2 or 3 NHL games, 2 or 3 NFL games, you name it, 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6 baseball games. Everybody wants more. So that's, I guess, the one thing sort of looking back I had hoped for out of today's press conference. It was just something, anything, a new franchise, whether it would be a tennis game or a new football game or new baseball game, right? I mean, T.J. Lyerman last year was holding out hope that MVP baseball would somehow make a return. So we can always hope. But it didn't happen this year, but that's okay, right? A lot of the stuff, as I said at the top, that we were expecting happened. There's plenty of sports games coming out this fall, right? And a really heavy, August, September. You've got with Pro Evolution and NBA Live now moving up into that time frame. I think it's basically over 6 or 7 weeks. You've got Madden, FIFA, Pro Evolution, NHL, NBA 2K, and NBA Live. That's a lot, and then of course, as I mentioned, you got golf coming out in July. That is a really heavy lineup of sports games. There's a lot going on. So as we sort of wrap it up tonight, Chris Shanner, overall, as a sports game fan, thumbs up or thumbs down coming out of E3 2015's press conferences?
Some thumbs up, some thumbs down. I mean, it was a little bit of good, a little bit of bad, but there was nothing terrible and there was nothing great. It was what it was. So, yeah, I mean, I have no problems with it. We're going to find out a lot more about each of these games in the next few months. I mean, this was the beginning point for many of them. So, just excited to see what's next. What else is coming?
T.J. Lyerman, thumbs up, thumbs down. I think you're muted, by the way.
Yeah, a lot of sideways thumbs. I think we're going to hear some stuff in the next couple days. Like we're going to hear this, whatever this night golf thing is tomorrow for PGA Tour. So hopefully we get some more stuff in the next couple days, and it's not some of these sideways thumbs will start turning into thumbs ups.
Brian Weedeye, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Probably be a surprise after how we've talked, but I think mostly thumbs up actually, because they establish the games and then they are able to go into the stuff, the meat of them that actually matters outside of E3. So I also think the next couple days are more important to something like NBA Live. Like, do we get gameplay videos off the show floor? Do they allow that? That'll say a lot. What are the impressions of people? We have to be careful with that, though, because we saw what happened with NHL last year when it got Sports Game of the Year awards at E3, because all they let you do was play the gameplay, which was the best part of the game, but conveniently hid that it was missing 90% of its content. So we have to be careful with that stuff, but that starts to set the table for where these games are going, and I think it's the starting point for that is better this year than it has been in recent years.
I'm a big fan of setting good expectations, not good positive, just correct expectations. And I firmly believe that this year, for those of us that like sports games, our expectations were properly set. We have a really good idea about what we're getting. We're not being over-promised. I don't think we're going to get under-delivered. I think there's a lot of good stuff that we're going to get, and that it is definitely one of those safe years. I think with virtual reality and the HoloLens stuff coming, more into focus, no pun intended, in 2016, 2017. I think that's when you'll start to see a lot of the forward leaning. So I'm kind of glad they didn't go crazy. They didn't do that crazy fake Minecraft thing that Microsoft did today with sports games, something that may or may not be possible in a decade, right? So overall, I'm a thumbs up on that too. All right, much more happening this week around all of the different places, obviously related to sports games and E3. Over on Hit the Pass, we're going to sort of talk more individually about each of the games, what we saw. Obviously, tons of stuff going on, being posted on Pasta Padre, tons of stuff being posted on Operation Sports, and TJ Lyman, of course, will be weighing in on all of those places, I'm sure. So thank you, everybody, for joining us on our first official Hit the Pass live stream. Much appreciated, a lot of fun. Thank you, Brian Weedeye. Thank you, Chris Sander. Thank you, TJ Lyman. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Lots of fun. Again, lots more coming down the line. Everybody have a great night. Enjoy the rest of E3 week, and we'll talk to you again real soon.